Hey guys, subscribe for daily content. And if you're shopping for gear, make sure you check out the description for the newest items at some of the very best online retailers. There's also links for some of the items that I personally recommend. Thanks!
What's going on YouTube? Metal Complex here, and today I've got a very interesting knife review / knife overview to show with you guys. This is the Ohlone Knives Goat A.X.L. Yeah, I've been carrying this knife a lot. In fact, it has truly been dominating my pocket. This isn't gonna be a super duper long review. I'm gonna try and get right to the point because I absolutely believe that this is one of the best knives of 2023. And here recently, at least, has been one of my absolute favorites. Thank you so much to Ohlone Knives for sending this in for me to take a look at. Thanks to my patrons for supporting me. And please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. As of right now, there are still versions of this knife that you can buy. I don't know if the titanium ones are currently available. We're going to talk about that, but I will link this knife right down in the description so that you guys can check them out if you want to. It does help my channel when you use those links, but that's entirely up to you. Let's go ahead and get a measurement. Overall length of the Goat A.X.L coming in at 8. It's like 8 1/8. Blade length is 3.5 inches. Cutting edge is 3.5 inches. Full-size knife. How about some size comparisons up against the Ontario Rat Model 1 and the Ontario Rat Model 2? You can see here, it is definitely a full-size knife. It is nearly the same overall length as the Rat 1. How about up against the Demco AD 20.5? There we go. How about up against the Spyderco PM2 and the Spyderco Para 3? There we go. You can see definitely closer to the size of the PM2. And then last but not least, how about the Benchmade Griptilian, or in this case, the Ritter Hogue, and the Benchmade Bug Out. Everybody do me a favor real quick. Go down into the comments and laugh at all the people who couldn't help but say, that looks like a copy of the Bug Out. I'm sorry. Egg on your face. I got to make fun of you every single time. The Bug Out has too classic of a design, right? I mean, you're suggesting that the blade on the Bug Out is original, or the handle profile is original. That's just knife dating back to as far back as knife was ever a thing. So you're a goof, and we're all gonna laugh. Yeah, it has a Bug Out-esque profile, or really what we should be saying is it has a very classic knife profile that has definitely been done thousands of times over before the Bug Out ever existed. I've always wanted the Bug Out to just be a bigger, more robust knife, and that's kind of what I get with this in so many ways. It is it's a Ritter Hogue sized Bug Out. And that is just absolutely fantastic. How is the action? This freaking thing runs on washers. Oh, and by the way, I don't know, unless they have it printed on the Ohlone Knives website, the OEM behind this knife is Riat. And for some reason, I don't know who decides whether or not Riat has their name shown. Like if you go to Blade HQ, it just says Made in China. It's Riat. I don't know why they sometimes want to be known as the OEM and sometimes don't, but it's Riat. I believe this is their first crossbar lock, and holy moly, they did a great job with this. If I was Riat, I would want everyone to know that I did this. I am so confused by the way. Maybe that's not the case, and they're not necessarily trying to hide. It's just weird, right? If you're a retailer, right? I would put not just Made in China. Tell us who the OEM is, because Made in China can mean a lot of different things, right? I would put Riat on this thing. That's not, Ohlone Knives told me right away. They were like, yeah, this is Riat. So they're not trying to hide it, right? But Riat did an excellent job. This is very smooth. In the beginning, expect it to be a little bit stiff, right? But this has gotten substantially smoother as time has gone on. And wow, it is a joy. On top of that, we have no movement whatsoever. We also definitely have some more robust Omega springs. The tension on this is wonderful. I don't know about you guys, but I can't stand floppy, loosey-goosey, rattly axis lock knife or bar lock knives, right? No, this feels ridiculously high quality, and it is wonderful. Thumb stud action is incredible. whether you want to fire it out this way or you want to reverse flick it. So you can see there, the action is definitely smooth enough where you can easily reverse flick this knife, even if you catch the bar lock and it drags a little bit on your finger. But yeah, this is wonderful. I'm a big fan of any ambidextrous lock design, so that's just fantastic. Moving on here, let's go ahead and do carry profile. So thickness up against the Spyderco Para 3. It's about the same. These are contoured scales though, so that's something to keep in mind. Length and height up against the PM2 and Para 3. You can see here that this guy is definitely shorter than the PM2, a little bit longer than the Para 3, about half an inch or so, something like that. Nowhere near as tall as either though. Truthfully, my carry experience with this knife has just been wonderful. If we're really, I don't know why we do not need to directly compare this to the bug out. It just looks similar. But if you were someone who's like, I don't know, I like the profile, so I'm kind of thinking the bug out, but is it really worth carrying around the extra weight? Yeah. Yes, it is. If you really, really, really need to do the whole min-maxing for weight thing, and you just love the feeling of the, sort of dead leaf scales of the bug out, right? Then sure. But for me, the weight on this, and this is, by the way, titanium and M390. For me, the weight on this, which is 4.62 ounces, is not a bother. That's pretty normal for what I carry. If you want this but lighter weight, they do make a G10 one. It's just all G10 with some nested steel liners, and that will definitely weigh substantially less. But this titanium one, I just don't have a problem with it. I just have absolutely loved carrying this thing around. Let's go ahead and do a hardware check. I'm going to get out my tools as per usual. My tools are very inexpensive and very recommendable. You can find them right down in the section of my description that talks about the tools I use on this channel. I think these are all T8 screws. Where's the... Oh my God, I hate this bit. Let's see here. Yeah, we got a T8 pivot. Is that right? Or is it a T10? No, it's a T8. We also have T8 body screws. And look at that, just around the outside. That's really great. Why? Why are they not in the middle like the bug out? Why do we not have 18 screws on each side? Well, because number one, the stop pin doesn't need a screw. I don't know why a stop pin ever needs a screw. Number two, it's not a cartridge liner. It is a full body liner, which means they don't need a screw in the middle to hold everything in place. That's just not, it's not necessary, right? The screws back here holding the pieces not only to each other, but they're also holding that nested liner along with the pivot. So that's really great. It's still a crossbar lock with Omega springs. And if you've ever taken one of those apart and put it back together, you'll know that it is definitely more frustrating than your typical frame lock with pillar or sandwich construction. So just know that if you need to take it apart and you've never done this before, the crossbar lock knives are not the easiest to take apart the first time. After you've done it a couple of times, it's no big deal. So, but at least the number of fasteners is minimal. Let's go ahead and measure the blade stock thickness here real quick. That looks like 125 to me. No, it's even less. It's 115 thousandths. Great. Very nice. Let's go ahead and talk about the meat and potatoes here. My goodness, is this good looking. This is just really, really good looking. And it's a great example of how, when, if you've ever been confused and people say like, well, it's a Riot, so it's worth the extra money, right? And then you look and you're like, I don't really understand. Riot executes better usually than their competition. And sometimes that shines through in a very obvious way, and sometimes it doesn't. In the case of the Ohlone code, the moment you lay your hands on this thing, it's like energy is transferred from the object through your fingertips, and it goes up your arm and through your chest and into your brain, and it just slaps your internal, your third eye with a canoe paddle, right? It's just immediately obvious that this is made differently than its general competition. We also have a beautiful polish on this blade. This is I would call it a high reflectivity tumbled finish. It's obviously not a mirror polish, but it looks wonderful. This looks so much better than the standard belt satin finish that Riot defaults to with everything. They do a great job, But oh my goodness. I mean, I feel like 99 out of 100 people are going to prefer this finish to the standard belt satin finish. It just looks better. Really, really great. We have knockdown edges here. Great tip, right? Just an absolutely fantastic blade. And as you might be able to guess by the fact that the drop point is about the most classic blade shape ever, it's great for EDC. You know what else is great for EDC? The ergonomic lines on this thing. It's bigger and thicker than the bug out, and it's contoured. So you have more room, there's more to hang on to, and it's more comfortable. The edges are also very nicely knocked down, and this primary, I'm gonna call it the primary choil, right? The index finger choil is just perfect. It's the right size for me. Even if your fingers were a little bit bigger, if you got a little bit more chunky fingers, there's still room in there, right? Still plenty of room at the back end to come back, but nothing that is keeping your hand captively within these two zones. So these are subtle changes here, so you can move around just a little bit, or if your hand's a little bit bigger, right? If your hands are smaller than mine, you're gonna be plenty comfortable. This pocket clip is about as perfect as it gets. It is a milled clip. We have a drop and a slight swoop, which means in and out of the pocket is a breeze and the thing's not digging into your hand. This is wonderful. Honestly, the only thing that this needs is some Sebenza style jimping up here, or some PM2 style jimping. We just need it to about right here. I think that would be perfect. This absolutely is, with it being a crossbar lock knife, it absolutely is a knife that you can take out and use for extended periods of time. Pretty hard, right? If you need to like process wood or something like that, a little bit. Yeah, right? Or cutting thick cardboard, rope, rubber, whatever. Absolutely. Absolutely. This knife is beautifully comfortable and very, very easy to manipulate. Wonderful. Extremely sharp edge too. Man, I would like to think that Riot has done a great job with this heat treat. I mean, I've been using this. It's kind of hard to tell, but that's the beauty of, a high polished tumbled finish. If you do mark it up, you're not going to be able to see it. And most of the time, what people beat their chests over, I use my stuff. Look how dirty my blade is. Literally some WD-40 will take that off and make it look brand new, right? People leave that on there on purpose so that they can brag about how dirty and used their knife is. But in reality, it cleans up pretty good. A high polished finish like this, right? So for those people, what you're going to want to do is go outside when nobody's looking and take a rock and really scratch the blade up. That way there's no way to clean it off and people will definitely know that you use your stuff, right? Nah, it's always going to look, a finish like this is always going to look good. That's the beauty of it, right? Really, it doesn't matter. I think, at one point it was caked up with some adhesive or something like that, something from one of the boxes, and I just wiped it down, but really, really great. And the edge has really held up. So that's fantastic. We have a bead blasted finish on the titanium. They definitely need to make one of these with black G10. They've got, as far as options go, they have JG10 with a black G10 inlay, black G10 with a JG10 inlay. Then they have titanium with micarta, just this color. Then they have titanium with what looks like a copper carbon fiber, which I think was the best looking one that I saw, but they were out of those when I was happy to have this one. They definitely need to do one with titanium and black G10. And you guys also need to do a black titanium version with, I'm just going to throw this out there, silver twill. Oh boy. Ooh, with a black blade. Oh, come on now. That sounds really great, right? They need to do as many versions of this as possible. Do one with red G10, right? But this is the type of knife where a lot of people are going to want it. A lot. People already want this knife, and they're going to want the titanium version. Why? Because the G10 version, curiously, is almost exactly the same price. We can't get after Ohlone for that because, as I've learned, they have very little to do with the final price tag. It's usually the OEM that kind of decides that. I don't know if that's exactly the case here, but I'm going to go ahead and say it was Riot's decision to do that. This is a really confusing situation because the titanium version of this knife is beautifully priced for a Riot. Oh my gosh, I could not believe the price tag. Now let's hope it stays there at $255. That's great. The G10 version of this knife is way too expensive at, again, $250 to $255. No, what? Riot's never going to see this, but come on, guys. $150 is plenty. There's no reason, right? That's why they're still sitting there. People want the titanium one. So I would say, since there's no, manufacturers don't go, oh, okay, our bad, and then bring the price down $100. That doesn't happen. I mean, I could get 100,000 people in here screaming, and I mean, number one, that's never going to happen. Number two, it's also not going to affect the price tag. So my suggestion would be, and I'm sure that Ohlone is way ahead of me here. Make as many different versions of the titanium ones, or put in more orders for the titanium ones as possible, right? Riot obviously has a ton of different projects, so this isn't something that Ohlone knives can just, snap their fingers and be like, here you go, poof, there's a whole bunch of them. No, it's going to take a little bit, right? But yeah, this is as many different inlays with titanium as possible. That would just be fantastic. And if by some miracle they do manage to have the price reduced on the G10 one, that would also be great, because I am certain that so many people would opt for that. But I have a feeling that's never going to happen, right? The rest of this is about what you guys would think. I mean, we have a micarta backspacer here. The inlay transitions. Riot does some of the best inlay work, the best production inlay work on the market, right? It's just perfect. The only way you can tell that you've changed material is because the surface is different, right? But the transitional line, now you can't tell. The inlay work is truly perfect. It's just fantastic. There is no lanyard hole. Who cares? Something that you will care about, though, and that's weird, is that there is no way to mount the clip on the other side. I had somebody try to tell me, like, you just take the clip and flip it over. No. Number one, it's curved a specific way. So if you went on this side, it would be curved the other way. So no. Number two, it's nested into the titanium, which is what keeps it from moving. If you did take this and flip it over to the other side and try to put a screw through it, it would wiggle around because there's nothing keeping it captive. So that's not an option. They either should have milled out a little spot right here, which I understand does take away some of the aesthetic beauty, right? Or better yet, have it wrap around and lip into the titanium from the back. That way, the only eyesore, and it's hardly that, is just another hole for the screw, right? And it's already here. It's already here. And then once it's slipped in there, it only needs one screw, right? And really, it wouldn't be an eyesore at all. It'd be just like this because you just have the screw here, right? This is an ambidextrous locking system. We need ambi-clamp mounting positions. We need that. Lefties need that. That's 10% of the population. I promise you, they do care. They exist and they very much care. So right-handed people don't, but that's because you are not dealt the same hand. You don't literally not dealt the same hand. So yeah, it's important, right? The clip retention is fantastic. This is a milled clip. In and out of the pocket, like I said, is great. There's a stop pin located in its traditional position. No blade play up, down, left, or right. No lock stick, no pivot lash. Beautiful. Beautiful. And perfect centering, even with washers. This is extremely recommendable. This is one of my favorite knives ever. It will go on my most recommended knives playlist, and it's also going to go on my favorite knives of all time. At $255 for this titanium version specifically, it is a no-brainer. This is a nearly perfect knife. Absolutely one of my favorite carry knives ever, and definitely one of the best knives to release in 2023. You will be doing yourself a favor picking this knife up. It's $255 is a lot of money. It's rare that I so aggressively recommend something. If you have never spent that much money on a knife, but you're considering it, this would be a great way to spend that money. This would be a, wow, these really do get better at these prices. That would be that type of purchase. There's really nothing else to say here. I mean, this is an absolute home run. Nice work, Ohlone. Riot, get your pricing together on the G10 version of this. And then also, we really need lefty clips. That's all I've got to say. Awesome stuff. I'm going to be carrying this one for a very long time. Please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like. If you'd like to check out my other content, I do, of course, have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I do or don't like, so check those out. And if you enjoy all my content, go ahead and click on that Metal Complex logo right there and subscribe because there's definitely more coming. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and have a great day.